Is that a blurred visions, limited eyesight, limitation of the light? Interesting start. It's as if they're half opening their eyes, trying to see the people in front of them. The shape of voice. I thought this movie was called The Silent Voice. Is it both? I'm guessing this is the main character, Shoya.
全部で3万くらいっすね。
Working at a grocery store or family market, which is a common side job in Japan and also in Korea. He's walking alone on the bridge. I'm guessing that foreshadows his loneliness, since the bridges are usually full of people, especially how busy Japan is. Oh shit! Did he just contemplate suicide jumping off the bridge? Whoa. Bridge again. A lot of bridge walking already. I'm only 2 minutes into the movie, but since everyone that recommended this show highlighted how symbolic and deep this movie is, that's on par with Frieren and Violet Evergarden, the two series that I'm covering every single week until this week for this special release of this special milestone, Reaction to a Silent Voice. I'm guessing there's a lot of symbolism and foreshadowing in this movie. So that's the perspective I will be reacting to this movie. So far, we've seen Shoya, I'm guessing the main character, walking across the bridge multiple times. We see him crossing out his dates and a lot of flashing through time. The time seems very chronological and flashing by or flying by for him, Shoya. And that to me, I'm surmising a couple of things. I could be entirely wrong since we're only 2 minutes in, but bear with me. I think that bridge here symbolizes a deeper meaning of connection. Maybe, yes, as we know, in terms of infrastructure of what a bridge does, the function of a bridge is it allows us pedestrians passing from point A to point B. It allows vehicles and cars to move from point A to point B. If we make that into a parallel comparison to real life and emotional development and growth, since I read the overview and descriptions of this movie as I do as part of my research before watching any videos, it symbolizes that we too, just like how a car or pedestrians walking across the bridge from point A to point B, we too as real people in real life, we too can walk and evolve and develop from point A of brokenness, disconnection, emotional aloofness, hurts, trauma, to the point B of healing and progression. And as we all know, the function of the bridge is not the final destination. It's seldomly that as soon as you cross the bridge, it's the end, it's the destination. That's hardly the case. But rather, bridge is also part of the destination. Or rather, bridge is also part of the journey to get to the destination, which is healing. So bridge is never the final destination, and the point of our evolution, personal development, and healing and emotional growth is seldomly the final goal, and it's not about perfection, but rather progress. Just like when we cross the bridge, it's part of our progression of moving forward. And the fact that within 2 minutes in, we're already seeing 2 bridges, I think that's what the show or the movie is foreshadowing already. That I don't know Shoya's full circumstances yet. I've read somewhere that he was a bully and he's also trauma, and this movie is about his healing and so on. So I know the very gist of what the movie is about. But my prediction is that that's a foreshadowing and deep symbolic representation of how far, and as we the viewers get to witness Shoya's evolution and progression with his healing. Because healing is complex and it's never easy, but it's always worth it. And one more thing I will say is we saw 2 calendars of him crossing out the dates. And we saw the calendar sort of flipping by. I think that's because he is severely depressed for unknown circumstances. And to him, time is meaningless. His days and his weeks are meaningless. We started the movie with him making his money as his side gig or main job at a supermarket, and him paying bills. I think he paid someone back that he owed money to, and he just paying bills. And that's a lot of the symptoms of severe depression, where days are meaningless, your days are just going by, but rather you're just counting your days until the end. And I think that is very congruent with that flash of glimpse of possibility of him contemplating jumping off the bridge as his suicide attempt, which is very dark. But suicide, there's always a reason behind it with deep hopelessness. But that fireworks interrupted his plan or contemplation of jumping off the bridge. So I also wonder if those fireworks are also symbolizing the potential growth, the potential hope that we all have if we do not give up. And sometimes we all near that breaking point and we're contemplating giving up through different measures. But we don't know what we don't know. And we don't know how tomorrow, next week, or next month, we might feel better through therapeutic support, through watching videos like mine, or seeking other resources out there. So I'm glad the fireworks interrupted his thought pattern and contemplation of suicide or jumping off the bridge. But this movie is already off to a great start with a lot of hints of symbolism, and already I can tell this will be a deeply emotional and psychological movie, which is why everyone recommended this. Very excited for this. Hey, wow, he looks so happy in the introduction. And sorry for muting out all the music because of copyright strike warriors. It's very interesting that in the opening introductions of the movie, Shoya seems so happy and carefree and a lot of energy. And we see this stark contrast between how he's acting here in the introduction scene versus how the movie started. Very down, flat facial expressions, no emotional expression. He seems like a dead person, like a zombie walking the bridge, paying his bills, making money day after day, crossing out the days on the calendar. And I think that I'm sure this movie will go backwards of how Shoya is starting or how he is today in the present tense with his psychological state, his mental health, or lack thereof, versus how he used to be. And I'm sure that's how the stories and circumstances will unfold. So we shall see. See how happy he is in the introduction? He looks like he's in middle school, maybe? He looks popular, has a lot of friends. Oh, who's this person? She seems very lonely, almost like an outcast. Oh, new classmate. So it makes sense she's alone because she's new. That usually means he cares. Oh, she seems like a nice girl. Did anyone used to do that with their pencil to see if it breaks or goes all the way back in? I used to when I spent my years when I grew up in Korea and China. She's not talking. Oh, she's deaf. She's mute. Is this why this is called a shape of voice or silent voice? Silent voice, her voice. Because she's deaf. She looks so innocent. Whoa, what is this? What? Oh, did that have some sort of a... What was the meaning of that game? She uses reading lips. Lip reading is technically what people who suffer from deaf or who are mute uses. Same nickname as Shoya, the main character. Oh, Shoya is a bully. Shoya is a bully. Interesting. It's a very interesting dynamic. Oh, because she's deaf, she can't hear anything. Oh. Nishimiya. It's awesome because Nishimiya's classmate here, she's very considerate. While everyone else is watching and just stood by and did nothing. We also call that bystander effect. It's where it's a psychological concept that a lot of people, when there's like a horrible thing or something else is happening, like a car accident, someone got hurt, bystander effect usually states that most people believe that someone else will make the call. Someone else will call the police. Someone else will call 911. So they're like, oh, we don't have to do anything. And what do most people do when there's car accidents or something horrible happening in the public? They pull out their phone and start filming. Very horrible thing, because they assume, oh, I could just be a bystander. Someone else will call for help, I'm sure. But if everyone behaves and operates from bystander effect, what does that mean? That no one ends up calling. So in this case, I think this is a microcosm of that. Because in a lot of ways, schools and classrooms is a microcosm of the life, right? There's stresses, there's challenges, there's growth, there's authority, teachers and student dynamic, there's politics, like friendships, bullying, different friendship alliances. You join different extracurricular activities, different clubs. So classroom and school is a microcosm of real life. That's why students, as kids, they go through schooling. It's not just for education and knowledge acquisition. It's not just to learn for good grades, graduate, get a job. Yes, that's unfortunately how schools have transformed into nowadays because capitalism and capitalistic pressure. It's not good or bad. It's just the state of this reality. So in this case, Nishiyama, her classmates tapped her on his shoulder, said, hey, you went too early because you're deaf and it's hard to read lips, especially with this wands. I don't know the actual term that composer uses for that tool. So she missed the timing. So her classmate gently tapped her, and did you see her finger pointing at her lips saying that, I will let you know when you're ready. You went too early, to emphasize the lip reading, to help her out. So yes, bystander effect is a psychological phenomenon that a lot of us fall prey to. At the same time, humanity is beautiful because there will always be someone who's willing to extend their generosity, who's willing to extend their act of service and act of kindness. In this case, it's the classmates. Beautiful scene. But do you see how everyone else around them, like even look at this scene that's paused, no facial expression, they're just standing there. Whereas Nishimiya and the classmates are the only two people smiling. This is the microcosm of bystander effect. Oh, everyone else is thinking about the choir competition. He's a bully. Dang. Screw you, Four Eyes. Oh, because he's mute, so it's hard for him to read. That's why she can't really pronounce anything. Don't they have special education for students like this? And of course now, I know this movie was, I think, released 2018. So the movie was probably made 2 years prior, so 2016. Since obviously it takes years of production before the release of a film, movie, or a show. I know now there's a lot of deaf schools, schools for blind people, and a lot of other special needs schools, which is awesome to accommodate the special needs of people with physical disadvantages. Since all human lives are sacred, and we don't get to choose if we're born blind or deaf, we don't choose the circumstances that's unfortunate that happens to us. Why? Because this force of life is greater than all of us. None of us get to bend life to our will. Otherwise, we'll be gods. But I guess in this movie setting, that there is no special needs accommodations for Nishimiya, who is deaf. Because that literally qualifies for special education, not for intellectual or developmental disabilities, but for her physical disability. Shoya here is very interesting because he's very attentive. He pays attention and he's very attuned to the feelings of her, I guess, desk mate. Because she's like, this isn't fair. I read out loud, but it was monotone. So the teacher got mad. Is that what you call reading? Sit back down. And next, Nishimiya went. And obviously she can't pronounce anything properly because she's deaf. Not quite mute, I take that back. Since people with a deafness have difficulty speaking, but doesn't mean they cannot speak. But of course, in a lot of occasions, people who are deaf also tend to be mute, but it's not mutually exclusive. But back to my point, Shoya paid attention that her desk mate was hurt. Her feelings were hurt. And I think Shoya felt her embarrassment as a result. So he also acted out to alleviate and remedy some of that burden and some of the embarrassment of her desk mate. That's extremely considerate and compassionate of Shoya, which is interesting because he is seen with a couple of scenes of bullying already. We're only 8 minutes into this movie. At the same time, he also pays attention. And that's the psychology behind bullying. I'm sure we will dive much deeper throughout this movie for the next 2 hours. What I mean by that is people who are bullies or people who are clowns, like class clowns. I used to be a clown in middle school because I used to get bullied as well. And if you're in your 30s now or 90s baby, most of us went through bullying. And I know now it's more severe for cyberbullying, bullying through social media, internet, and so on. And it is very, very severe because a lot of adolescents and children, they do commit suicide or they self-harm because of cyberbullying and bullying. So bullying and cyberbullying is definitely a big no-no, period. But here I do want to talk about the psychology behind bullying. And like I said, and class clowns, which I was. People who are usually class clowns, just speaking from my experience and literature out there, people who are class clowns tend to act out. They make a lot of jokes. They're the funny people. They're the funny kids. They want to make people laugh. That people-pleasing tendencies. But here's the dark truth. People who are usually the happiest outside, people who are laughing the loudest on their external appearance, are people who are usually the loneliest and suffering the most inside. Look at Robin Williams, rest in peace. He committed suicide and passed away in 2016, I believe. And when he passed away, it took everyone by surprise because when we think about the actor and the comedian Robert Williams, what do we think about? He's always funny, he's gracious, he's always smiling. Why? Because he became a famous actor for his comedic ingenuity. And he's a genius and such an amazingly funny person. And he's always smiling. Yet, he committed suicide because of this silence, this invisible suffering and aloneness and loneliness he's been suffering with. And that's the same case for Anthony Bourdain, rest in peace, Kate Spade. So many celebrities and air quotes successful people commit suicide and take their own lives. Why? Because people only see what's in the outside, the false layers of mask, the different layers and facade and smoking mirrors people put up. But inside, they're suffering silently. And that silent suffering is deadly. And same thing for bullies. If anything, class clowns, they derive happiness and self-worth and validation by being funny, but bullies is like a level deeper. They derive the same thing and they seek attention and they're combating and battling their bullying and they're combating and battling their loneliness and their silent suffering by inflicting the suffering to other people. And this is a psychological phenomenon where bullies are usually the people who are also bullied previously. Bullies are also the people who are abused physically, emotionally, verbally, and even sexually at home. Bullies are the people and the victims themselves in their own circumstances that are unknown to the other people. So in school setting, bullies bully because it's like a payback with all this unprocessed anger, resentment, loneliness, mental health suffering. So it's very interesting that here, Shoya is a bully, but rather he's very attentive and he pays attention to everything, like the emotional hurt of his classmate. And that makes sense because through all these abuses and suffering and loneliness and silent suffering, they've learned to level up their survival instincts. They're always looking out for danger. That's survival instincts. And that's why we're seeing already 3 or 4 glimpses of Shoya looking around for danger, for the responses of the classmates, like in the choir scene. This is very intricate. Very peaceful music. You know that means something dark and effed up is gonna come up soon. Oh boy, is that my PTSD from watching Freerun and Violet Evergarden?
Bye bye, Nishimiya-san.
Oh, that girl, she's not a bully, but she's also isolating Nishimiya. As soon as Nishimiya came, they left. Social isolation. Oh, that's sad. She already came to the school late, which is already harder for her to make friends even if she was able without any physical disadvantages. But in this case, she's also deaf and has physical disability on top of that.
お前さ、もっとうまくやらねえとうざがられちゃうんじゃねえの?
People who are able, physically able, are discriminatory against people who are not able with physical disadvantages and physical disabilities. That's what that girl and her, I guess, crew of friends just did to Nishimiya right now by isolating Nishimiya, even though they all saw her. They could have just invited her to join. And yes, I know it's very nuanced because these are children. I don't know if they're middle school or elementary school since they're all kids to me, right? So I'm sure they also want to have fun. They want to be able to verbalize, communicate, articulate what they're thinking. And playing is part of communication, and communication is part of playing, whether you're children or adults. So I'm sure, yes, it is inherently hard for these children to also play with someone that's deaf and that can't even talk and has to communicate through notebooks. So I'm sure there is an inherent level of frustration. So I do want to make that very clear. I'm not judging the group of girls for leaving Nishimiya because of this additional nuance consideration, but I do want to zoom in and focus on the societal illness of ableism, because any discrimination is a psychological and societal illness. They need to be combated at all costs. But we'll see what Shoya does, because Shoya just approached Nishimiya right now after those girls left.
うざがられちゃうんじゃねえの?
Oh, he's trying to look out for her a little bit. Friends.
気持ち悪い!
Oh, what the that was so mean. I mean, he's a bully. I know I'm pausing out, I apologize, but there's so much just in that little scene of Shoya spraying the sand into Nishimiya. Right after Nishimiya innocently smiled at Shoya and said, friends? Of course, that's what she was trying to communicate. But what did Shoya say in response? You're gross. And why is that? Because his loneliness and his silent suffering, and he knows that he's also an outcast, maybe from his own family background. I know for a fact, I don't even know, but just from my clinical expertise, I know for a fact that Shoya comes from a family of brokenness and trauma and probably some sort of a neglect or abuse. So as soon as Nishimiya was opening up to him and saying friends, because she appreciated him warning her. Think about what just happened. Shoya came with good intention. He probably saw from afar that the group of girls left her and wanted to socially isolate Nishimiya. So he's like, hey, if you stop being stupid, people are going to get sick of you real fast. So he was warning her. And even what he just told her is a projection. Definition right here. He was verbally and psychologically projecting what he probably went through himself. That if he's not being a bully, right, being the powerful person, if he's not being a class clown that he also is in this movie, that people are going to get really sick of him. And here's what I learned in life. People will rather be stupid than dumb. I'll say that again. People will rather act stupid than acting dumb. Nobody want to be perceived as intellectually inferior and dumb by other people. So what do? They flip the table in their mind that, oh, I don't want to be perceived as dumb and intellectually inferior, so I'm just going to act stupid. Not intellectually stupid, but like a class clown, clowning, always making jokes, never being serious. It's a defensive mechanism. It's not good or bad. It's just what people developed to survive, but instead it is unhealthy because it does not serve us, ourselves, our connections, and our growth. So I don't like the framework of good or bad. who are we judge other people's lives? Everyone and all of us are trying our best. Full stop. But it's interesting that as soon as Nishimiya showed any type of affections or openness towards Shoya, he immediately got very defensive and he said, "You're gross," and sprayed the sand at her. Because he probably doesn't know how to accept other people's genuine care and love and affection. Why? I'm guessing that because he's never or hardly received genuine love and affection in his own life from his family, from his parents, or other circumstances. So he comes off the opposite of what he actually wants to display is, "Oh my gosh, you want to be friends," but rather you're gross with the sand spray. That's a very unhealthy defensive mechanism. And it goes back to what I said with bullying. Bullies are also hurt people. And here's one of my favorite mental health adage: hurt people hurt people. I'll say that again. Hurt people hurt people. And that's why healing is a necessity. Otherwise, we will continue to ruin and destroy and self-sabotage amazing and meaningful relationships, which is what I'm probably guessing what happened to Shoya with how this movie started, with him being very disconnected, not hanging out with any friends, just marking off his calendars day by day, counting down his days literally, even with that quick glimpse of near suicide attempt or contemplation.
皆さんは手話って知っていますか？手でおしゃべりするんですよ。
Oh, did they introduce a sign language specialist for special education?
ノートに書くのじゃダメなんですか？
Man, she's so mean.
しょうこちゃんは
So there's multiple bullies.
私手話
Aw, see? Humanity is beautiful. There is bystander effect, but there is also beautiful humanity within that. Amazing.
さ
Wow.
あ、あいつ服ダサくね。ダメだよなおちゃん。
Oh, her name is Now. What I said about Shoya, I'm sure equally applies to Now. Because think about it. For no reason, she's just hating on her. Why? Because of that one single teacher remark earlier that criticized her for reading and didn't do anything to Nishimiya. It's like, of course, people's efforts have to accommodate and adjust to different people. We don't hold the same standard for children as adults because they're different. Just like we don't hold the same standards for people who are deaf or people who are blind because of different disadvantages and different privileges. But of course, they're children, so their mindsets and their psychology is not fully developed. That's why I'm not fully blaming Now or Shoya for their bullying tendencies. I'm not justifying them, of course. I'm just saying that where they're coming from when viewing through this clinical psychology and mental health perspective, it is understandable that hurt people. But we'll see how this dynamic evolves, and I'm sure bullying will continue to get worse because in the beginning, she just joined this school very recently. And as people get to know her better, I'm sure a lot of frustrations, a lot of resentments, jealousy, this power dynamic, this politics that I talked about, how classroom is a microcosm of society, will unfold and become more evident more and more. Man, this movie's gonna get dark. See, Shoya is always glancing around the rooms and paying attention. He's very attentive.
石田やりすぎだって。
そうこんなもんし
See, Shoya is doing it for attention seeking because he's hurt. Hurt people. And he is manifesting his loneliness by attention seeking from other people.
うわ誰がこんなことしたの？私が代わりに消してあげるね。はい。
Oh, she's so nice. And she means it.
縄文時代は
See, class clown. What did I say? That's people who are so lonely inside seeking attention.
授業中だろうが。
はい、すみません。
This is exactly what I said in the beginning for class clowns and bullies. They're so lonely and hurt and suffering silently inside.
西宮さん、
Dude, isn't this middle of the class? What the fuck?
ちょっと見せて。
上野、それ何？
Oh, this isn't the middle of class. I was like, what the heck? What is teacher doing?
うわ、何
What the f-
切ったね。
Dude, what the oh man. So I want to bring back bystander effects that I talked about earlier. When now in Shoya, we're tossing the hearing aid, literally the only tool that Nishimiya relies on to even hear any modicum of sounds. They tossed it without realizing or recognizing how precious that thing is to Nishimiya. And of course, there's this lack of education, lack of awareness. I get it. They're children and they're not hearing aids or deafness experts. I hope the teachers made some education to this classroom to teach them about the suffering, the disadvantages, the difficulties of people who live with disabilities. But sounds like maybe they didn't know. So we don't know about that. But my point is, when they were tossing the hearing aid back and forth and different more scenes into the water, the puddle right here, I'm sure they kept doing that over and over again. Did anyone intervene? No. All we saw is Nishibiya trying to grasp and stop that tossing because she needs it. Without hearing aid, she literally cannot hear any sounds. Her world is mute and silent, which is a terrifying feeling. How many of us can stay in a solitary room with complete solitude, no iPhone, no social media, no YouTube, no Netflix, nothing. Just complete silence. Even now, I was just silent for about 3 seconds. Was that uncomfortable for even some of you? So imagine how difficult and how lonely Nishimiya's world is without hearing aid. But regardless, they were tossing and no one interfered. That's bystander effect at its full-blown scale. And man, I'm already noticing my body's getting warm, I'm getting heated, I'm already getting stressed out. And we're 14 minutes into this movie. Wow. See, he yanked it again. Oh, bullying continues. Dude, he yanked it so hard. It's bleeding. What the fuck? Dude, she's bleeding. There's probably some serious damage to her ears for yanking it out. See, the hurt people. Bullying continues. And I'm sure this contributes to him getting an outcast probably down the road. And the nicer she is, the more bullying and problematic Shoya is going to be. Oh, this is heartbreaking. She wants to make peace. She wants to make up. But Nishimiya, you did nothing wrong. And when you see problematic children, it's usually almost always parents' fault. Period. Parents are responsible for their children. And of course, everyone's life is hard. But problematic children is manifestations of their problems at home. AIDS, dude. We'll see if the bystander effect kicks in or people will speak up and advocate for Nishimiya. They are very expensive. Oh shit, dude. Wow, she was part of it too. Dude, this
lovely
kids, dude.
島田、お前も一緒にやってたじゃん。上野と河合が。は？
私そんなことしないよ。
Yo, these fakers.
石田君、ひどいよ。
Shoya is being outcasted and alone again, despite him becoming part of the bully. Social positioning for Shoya has flipped again. I'm sure this is where his depression, his PTSD, all the mental health suffering is starting. Quick pause, and I want to talk about scapegoat theory, definition right here. Scapegoat theory is this theory that by us finding a scapegoat or shift blaming, shifting our blames from us to other people, we can get away with it. We can absolve and deflect all of our responsibilities and our decisions they played in part. In this case, the collective bullying was not just Shoya. Yes, Shoya is the kid. Because of his own trauma, he manifested the most severe bullying actions. Yes, we saw that. There's no denying that. But equally, there's also no denying of all the other 5 kids he named and we saw were part of that bullying, and they enabled him. They encouraged him. They didn't stop him. Just like my favorite quote from Marcus Aurelius from the book Meditations, inaction is also injustice. Inaction is also a form of injustice. By you doing nothing to interfere, by you witnessing and watching bad things and tragedies to take place, you enable that very tragedy from happening. That's a fact. So Shoya is not the only kid that's responsible for Nishimiya's absence and 8 destroyed hearing aids. It's a collective responsibilities because a bunch of other classmates that might not have contributed directly to the bullying, but what did they do? They were part of the bystander effect. They did nothing to interfere. And therefore, by default, they enabled the bullying from happening that hurts Nishimiya's and her family financially, physically, verbally, and emotionally. And we saw a quick glimpse of Shoya's difficult family circumstances. Sounds like Shoya is not abused in the family, but I think that blonde hair woman we saw in the beginning where Shoya was paying back money is probably his mother. And I'm guessing it's a single mother household because I also grew up in a single mother household with my younger sister. Until my stepdad came into picture, who I love very deeply now, is as soon as the teacher said, apparently, or I'm guessing the principal who came in, apparently the hearing aids are very expensive. And what was Shoya's immediate flashback or memory or scene is his, I'm guessing, single mother, the blonde hair woman, working in a salon, cutting hairs, probably working double shifts. That's probably why the blonde hair woman, I'm guessing Shoya's mother, was sleeping in the beginning of the movie where Shoya left the money when he was older, right? So of course, it sounds like Shoya is also neglected or not attended to at home because it's a single mother household. They're struggling deeply, paying bills. Japan is very expensive and you don't make that much money from working in a salon, especially from a single parent's household with single income. So that's where Shoya is like, oh my God, this is more financial burden for my mother and I'll probably disappoint her again. And that comes with self-criticism, self-negativity, depressions, anxiety, guilt. So I really feel for all of them. And yes, what Shoya did is horrible, period. But so is what other classmates did, or rather did not do to stop this bullying from happening. And now I'm guessing and predicting that Shoya is the victim of scapegoat theory that I just mentioned. He will take on all the blames and he now has de facto become the scapegoat of this collective responsibility that all the other students should also have been accountable for. And this is probably the beginning of Shoya becoming an outcast again, being isolated, his social positioning going back to the bottom of the totem pole. And you iterate that, you translate that over time, over the years. That's how probably Shoya came to come to known as this lonely guy who walking the bridges by himself, thinking about suicide, just marking off his calendars, counting down his days meaninglessly and lonely with this deep, deep silent suffering and loneliness. The mom did find out and he is going to be responsible financially. And I'm sure there's other discipline. Fuck. Yep. Oh, so this him getting dumped in water with the notes on top was also other bullies, probably the blonde guy and the other chubby kid. They bullied him immediately after the class because Shoya name dropped them and he was pointing fingers. So that's probably retaliation by that blonde kid and the other chubby kid that were part of his bullying group. So he immediately fell to the bottom of social positioning, like I just said, and he immediately received the retaliation of the blonde kid, who I'm guessing is the head of the bully. You tell your mom to shut up? What the? Oh,
西宮さんとこ行くから支度しなさい。
Because Japan is such a respectful culture. Man. Oh, she's probably breaking her bank. Oh. The mom is constantly paying out of pocket and cleaning after Shoya. And all that becomes guilt, shame, self-judgment, worthlessness. I'm worthless. I'm nothing but a troublemaker. I'm worthless. The world doesn't need me. I do nothing but cause my mom trouble, who does nothing but work hard. I'm sure these are the stories that Shoya is telling himself over and over again. Wow, what are the odds of Shoya seeing Nishimiya here?
翔ちゃん、帰るよ。明日からいい子にするんだよ。
Wait, why does the mom have blood on his face? Was that blood stains on her face? Shoya is back on, yep, you see? Shoya is back being bullied. He's now on, everything he did to Nishimiya is now being done to Shoya. It makes sense, it's human psychology. It's again, it's the phenomena of her people.
何してんの？
She cleans
やってたんだよ、気持ち悪い。
She cleans his desk because she knows he's also suffering. She understands. She gets it. She knows he's hurt because she's been hurt many times.
ムカついてんだろ。言えよ。何すんだよ。
See, her people.
何？
She's trying.
てんだよ。
I'm glad at least Shoya didn't hit her. Also, I just need a quick pause from, oh gosh, dude, I'm 22 minutes into this movie. Oh man, I'm already getting, quick break. Also, quick question for you guys. Love to hear your thoughts below. You know, earlier when Shoya was trying to sneak by Nishimiya, because obviously he didn't want to face her because of all his shame, all his self-judgment, guilt, also the trauma. But obviously he flustered, and because of the flustering, it caused the doves fly away. And as we know, dove in at least the Western culture symbolizes peace. Dove is a symbol of peace. And do you think those doves being fly away is another symbolic foreshadowing of their reconciliation? And maybe finally between Shoya, the offender, and Nishimiya, the victim, reconciling between them two, and for a peace to finally transpire? Or am I reading too much into it and I'm just using this excuse to take a break from watching the movie? But what are your thoughts below? Yeah, this is happening to Shoya every day.
あいつマジムカつく。
She pisses him off because she makes him feel really guilty and shameful.
西宮さんは転校しました。
Oh, that's the water drips from the beginning of the movie. All right, so this is flash forward. Is this Shoya now? How many years have gone by? What's the time lapse here? That's my PTSD from watching Free Run. Sign language. Is that the end of the flashback? Are we only focusing on the present now? Is that Nishimiya? No fucking way. Is that her?
覚えてる。俺小6の時の。
6th grade. They were elementary school. That is Nishimiya. What? She's still smiling.
西宮？待って。
Yeah, Nishimiya is probably scared. She's hiding from him.
西宮。
So much hurt, so much trauma for both of them.
と。
Did you learn sign language, Shoya?
これ渡しに来た。
He's been visiting this sign school because he knew she would be here.
忘れ物。手話どうして？
Shoya learned sign language. This is the beginning of Shoya's redemption arc. Dude, he is earning his redemption by trying to rectify his mistakes and regrets.
さ。
He learned sign
俺
language.
と
And he kept a notebook from 6th grade.
俺と西宮友達になれるかな。何言ってんの俺。言ってたんだろ小学生の時。やっと意味わかった。
That's what Nishimiya did to Shoya in 6th grade.
泣かないでよ。僕と友達に。
Oh, this is the perception of Nishimiya. Oh no, oh god, just kidding. I guess that's Shoya's dream. Because I was like, wait, yeah, Nishimiya isn't blind. She has perfect vision. Where is he staying at?
マリア、おはよ
Who's this little kid? Oh, is this where he lives and works? What happened to his mom? Oh yeah, I love a sunny fried egg. Oh, that is his house. So he still lives with his mom. So maybe he's not a full adult yet.
う。何そん。
Oh, I miss my mom's cooking since obviously I've left long time ago. He paid her back.
頑張ったんだね。漫画も服も布団まで売っちゃって。
Part-time job.
でもあんたのその気持ちが嬉し
Is Shoya in high school or college? How old is he?
い。なんで死のうとしたの？
Oh, what the?
これでもいろいろあったんだ。
やっぱり部屋は異常に綺麗だし、携帯は繋がってないし。死ぬのやめるって言わなきゃこれ燃やすわよ。
やめます、すいません、マジで。
何をやめるだ、はっきり言え。
本当っす。
そう、絶対よ。
Oh, it's in the bacon. Oh, water. Oh, this movie's getting heavier and heavier. Oh man. So, real quick, did you see the criteria that the mom listed, which made her suspicious of Shoya, his, I guess, anticipated a suicide attempt? As I shared in my analysis with Violet Evergarden before, suicide prevention is one of my expertise, and I do work with a lot of suicidal clients with suicidal ideations and so on. Since suicidal ideation, definition right here, is a different severity. Suicide actually becomes a tangible risk when we do suicide prevention or suicide assessment, and there's 3 criteria. It's the thought. You have a thought of killing yourself. There's the intent, and the thought is a fleeting thought. It could be as passive or active as, I wish I never wake up. I wouldn't mind if I never wake up again. I wouldn't mind if I get hit by a car when I'm walking across the street. We call this fleeting thoughts. Those are passive suicidal thoughts. More active one is, of course, I'm going to jump off the bridge, which is what Shoya contemplated. I'm going to take sleeping pills and never wake up again. And that's the intent, the second criteria. Intent to take your own life. And the third is plan. You actually make a plan on this day, on this time, with this exact method, I'm going to kill myself. So thought, intent, and plan. And when individuals have reached all 3 criteria, some of the most helpful suicide prevention handbook, that's why this is important, and I want to share this with everyone, because suicide is invisible. Silent suffering is invisible. We don't know when someone is suffering silently. As I talked about throughout so far, people are very good at masking their feelings and disguising their true intentions internally. So I want to share this quick suicide prevention handbook, and I hope everyone can screenshot this and write things down. And there's a lot more free information online, of course, readily available. Shout out to free internet. When someone does some of these things, then you should be on extremely high alert, because when you see these behaviors by someone you know in your life, then that means they've already checked the suicidal thought, suicidal plan, and suicidal intent. So when you see these actions, please intervene and please check in immediately. Some of these lists includes when they are cleaning their entire apartment. Maybe they are messy and they're disorganized, and suddenly one day or immediately or unexpectedly, their place is very clean, like in Shoya's example. When they start to give away their items, like maybe someone is a huge gamer, but on a random day, very weirdly, they decide to give you their favorite laptop, their only laptop. They decide to give away their cars, their money, their belongings, their collectibles. So when they're cleaning themselves up, organizing their place, when they're disorganized, when they're giving away their beloved items that they used to treasure deeply, and also when they are turning off their devices and communications, or write a suicide letter. A lot of people write a letter to share their thoughts and their reasons and some wishes for their surviving members. And in this case, Shoya checked 3 of the 4 listing items that I just listed. And another thing I want to really share here, and I know this is a very serious topic and it's very sombering, even for me, as a psychotherapist who work with suicidal clients almost every single day. And I really want to empower everyone watching, so you have this knowledge bank with you to potentially prevent and save someone's life that you deeply care about. According to the latest suicide prevention literature, they conducted at San Francisco, because the Golden Bridge in San Francisco is the bridge with the highest suicide rate in the world because of the height, which is guaranteed death, and because of the scenery and different factors. From that study, it shows the single most important and powerful intervention that we can all do. You don't have to be a psychotherapist. You don't have to be a mental health expert. Of course, we need to rely on experts like myself to do intervention clinically to support these individuals who are hopeless, who are suffering intimately in a clinical setting. But all of us can do this one thing I'm about to share right now. You can simply ask, hey, are you thinking about killing yourself? Hey, are you thinking about suicide? This simple yet powerful check-in 70% of occasions can waver and stop someone from following through with their acts, can stop someone from taking their own lives. But you guys might be asking, but Benoit, this thing sounds too simple. How come so many people still commit suicide? Of course, there are a multitude of factors, but here's the key. The word suicide, even that terminology, and saying the words, are you killing yourself? Saying that sentence out loud is very uncomfortable for us, the ones who are saying it. Even right now, pause this video and try that sentence out loud. Because this sentence could be the very last hope and the very last check-in that stops and prevents someone else from taking their sacred and precious lives. And if you tried it just now, you might notice the anxiety, certain uncomfortable feeling you've just felt internally in your heart or in your gut. Do you see what I mean? It's very uncomfortable to say these things out loud. Why? Because suicide and the topic and the concept of taking your own life is a viscerally uncomfortable feeling. Because suicide is tragic. And we are not good at saying things about tragic out loud. That's why I'm taking this opportunity to share this information through psychoeducation. But this is also my proactive effort as a mental health expert and suicide prevention advocate to destigmatize the topic of suicide. Only way to move forward in this mental health realm, only way to make a dent in suicide prevention is through, first step, destigmatizing, definition right here, destigmatizing and normalizing such heavy topics like mental health, depression, anxiety, trauma, and suicide.
俺は昨日うんと高い橋から飛び降りて死ぬつもりだった。
All that flashback was within one day.
だったけど。
Quickly going back, remember the criteria I talked about of the hallmarks of an individual already decided their decision to take their own lives. Another thing I forgot to say, because there is a whole list, you can also look it up online, and I'll include the resources in the descriptions for anyone who wants to check it out further, is reconciliation. Going on a journey to rectify and reconcile with all of your regrets and mistakes. That's part of the same process for 12 steps or AA for Alcoholic Anonymous or Narcotic Anonymous and other 12-step programs. Is first step, accept that you made a mistake. Step 2, try your best to reconcile and rectify the mistakes you're deeply regretting about. And Shoya here made that as part of his to-do list before taking his own life.
今日のセカスト翻訳ポイント。このコーナーでは動画内のセカストの翻訳を一部取り上げ、なぜそのように翻訳したのか、その意図や過程を解説するコーナーです。声も変わって心機一転。もう大人の姿と子供の姿で声を分けるのが面倒くさいので統一しました。まあもうこれでいいでしょう。さて、それでは早速今日の翻訳を紹介しましょう。
People would rather be stupid than dumb.
ストゥピッドもダムもバカという意味の似た単語ですね。ということは、この文脈ではこの2つの単語に明確な違いがある。そう見た方がいいでしょう。こんな感じで単語の意味がよくわからない時や、あるいはどういう意味で言っているのかわからないことって結構ありますよね。そこで、TOEIC や英検でも活用できるテクニックを紹介します。もし長文読解問題などで意味のわからない単語が出てきた時は、その続きの文章を読んでみましょう。すると、大抵は似たような意味の文章だったり、あるいはその単語の意味をそのまんま説明したような文章が出てくることが多いです。私の経験では、英検などは意識してこういう構造になっている長文読解問題が多いように思います。あるいは英語自体がそういう文章が多いのかもしれませんね。では、その続きを見ていくと案の定こんなことを言っています。
Nobody want to be perceived as intellectually inferior and dumb by other people.
ここでインテレクチュアリーインフェリア、つまり知能的に劣っていると言っています。単にバカでなく、知能指数が低いというような意味で言っていたということが分かりました。もうほとんど答えが出てしまいましたが、念のため辞書も引いてみます。とりあえずここでは、ダムにおそらくバカ以外の意味があるかもと踏んで、この単語から辞書を引いてみることにします。今回は最初から例英辞典を引いてみることにします。すると、頭が悪いというような意味以外で、興味深い定義が出てきました。
Unable to speak.
話すことができないという意味も、この単語にはあるそうです。正直、こんな意味があるなんて知りませんでしたし、身体障害を扱った作品なので、この単語にこんな意味があることがちょっと感慨深かったです。一応そういう意味で言っている可能性も考慮してみましたが、やはり文脈的にはそぐわないように思います。なので、結論としてストゥピッドとダムは、バカであることと、知能的に劣っているという意味だと私は解釈しました。似たような意味ですが、両者には明確な違いがありますね。バカと言われると、一過性的な態度や知能的な悪さの指摘だったりと、かなり広範囲の意味にとらわれますが、知能的に劣っていると言われると、生まれつき、あるいは遺伝的に頭が悪いという意味だと、せかすとは思いますがどうでしょうか。ちなみにどっちの単語がどっちの意味で使われてるかは、あまり聞かないでください。さて、意味が分かったところで日本語訳を考えましょう。一応文字数にも気をつけます。尺としてはおおよそ4秒程度なので、16文字前後の文章になります。それを踏まえて最終的に出した翻訳がこちらでした。最終的には割とストレートに翻訳した文章になりました。ただそんなストレートな翻訳にもちゃんといろいろ考えた上でのプロセスがあるんだよってことです。しかし例によってちゃんとした正解はありません。なので皆さん的にはこれを16文字前後で翻訳するならどうするか、よかったらコメントで教えてくださいね。というわけで今日はここまで。続きがあるかどうかは正直わかりませんが、次回に乞うご期待です。以上、翻訳コーナーでした。それでは今日出てきた英単語を振り返ってみましょう。
Contemplate.
この単語は物事を深く時間をかけて考えるという意味の動詞です。静かに思索する場面で使われ、決断前に慎重に考えるニュアンスがあります。また、景色や芸術作品をじっと見つめるという意味でも使えます。こちらがその英単語を使った例文です。
He sat by the window, contemplating his future.
彼は窓辺に座り、自分の将来について熟考していた。
She contemplated the painting for several minutes.
彼女はその絵を数分間じっと見つめていた。石田は映画の冒頭で橋の飛び降りを考えるようになるほど深刻な状態になっていましたね。物事を考えるのは大事ですが、不安になったら一人で悩まずに誰かに相談するようにしましょう。
Symbolism.
この単語は物や描写に象徴的な意味を持たせることを指し、文学、映画、美術などでよく使われます。象徴主義という芸術運動の意味にも使われます。こちらがその英単語を使った例文です。
The use of light and shadow in the film is full of symbolism.
その映画の光と影の使い方は象徴性に満ちている。
In literature, birds often carry symbolism related to freedom.
文学では鳥はよく自由の象徴的意味を持っている。この映画だけでなく、映像作品にはキャラクターの心や物語の展開を象徴するものがよく描かれていることがあります。それに気づくと面白さが増す作品もありますが、あまり深く考えないで見ても面白いとは思います。
Destination.
この単語は旅行、移動などで最終的に向かう場所を意味します。比喩的に目標地点、到達点という意味にも使われます。こちらがその英単語を使った例文です。
Kyoto is a popular destination for tourists from around the world.
京都は世界中の観光客に人気の目的地だ。
We still have 2 hours before we reach our destination.
目的地に着くまでまだ2時間ある。動画内で橋は目的地へと到達するための手段であるというような話がありましたね。映画好きの人はファイナルデスティネーションという作品でこの単語を知ってる人もいるかもですね。
Stark contrast.
この表現は2つの物事が極端に異なることを鮮明なコントラストを指します。スタークには厳しい明白なのニュアンスがあり、非常に強い対象を表す際に使われます。こちらがその英単語を使った例文です。
There is a stark contrast between the rich and the poor in that city.
その都市では裕福層と貧困層の間に明確な対比がある。
Her cheerful personality was in stark contrast to his quiet nature.
彼女の明るい性格は彼の静かな性格とはっきり対照的だった。映画で描かれている高校生の石田と小学生の時の石田とでは明白な違いがありますね。けど石田って小学生の時のいじめっ子っぽいビジュアルのまま成長していったんですね。髪型変えたら？
Outcast.
この単語は社会や集団から排除されている人、のけ者を意味します。学校社会物語などで居場所をなくした存在を指す際に使われます。こちらがその英単語を使った例文です。
He felt like an outcast after moving to a new school.
新しい学校に転校してから彼はのけ者のように感じていた。
The character grew up as an outcast but later became a hero.
そのキャラクターは阻害されて育ったが、後に英雄となった。石田はいじめをした結果、クラスのみんなに晒し者にされ、さらには仲間外れになってしまいましたね。視聴者からするとモヤモヤする展開ですが、実際には同じようなことは多くの小学校で起こっているのかも。
Deaf.
この単語は耳が聞こえない人、聴覚に障害がある状態を指す形容詞です。尊重を込めて使われることが多く、大文字のデフは文化的なコミュニティを指す場合もあります。また何々を聞こうとしないという比喩表現もあります。こちらがその英単語を使った例文です。
She was born deaf and communicates using sign language.
彼女は生まれつき耳が聞こえず、手話でコミュニケーションをとっている。
He turned a deaf ear to their warnings.
彼は彼らの警告に耳を貸さなかった。西宮さんは耳が聞こえない、いわゆる聴覚障害がありましたね。ちなみに今ちょうど東京でデフリンピックという聴覚障害者のためのオリンピックが開催されていますが、このデフもこの英単語から来てます。
bully,
この単語は名詞ではいじめっ子、動詞では弱い立場の人をからかう、脅す、傷つけるという意味です。学校、職場、オンラインなど様々な環境で使われます。相手より優位に立ちたいという攻撃性を含みます。こちらがその英単語を使った例文です。
the bully kept bothering him every day at school.
そのいじめっ子は毎日彼を困らせていた。
She refused to let anyone bully her into silence.
彼女は台に戻されて黙らされることを拒んだ。石田はいじめっ子として描かれていますが、クラスにはいじめに加担していた子たちもいましたね。この映画では毎回誰が一番悪いのかという議論が盛り上がりますが、メガネの子がそういう意味では一番人気らしいですね。
bystander,
この単語は事件や出来事の近くにいるが、関わらず見ているだけの人を指します。特に事件、事故、いじめの文脈で何もしない傍観者という否定的な意味で使われることが多い単語です。こちらがその英単語を使った例文です。
the bystanders watched silently as the fight unfolded.
傍観者たちはその喧嘩が起こるのを黙って見ていた。
Teachers encourage students not to be bystanders, but to speak up.
教師たちは生徒に傍観者ではなく声を上げるよう促している。クラスの大勢が西宮さんに対するいじめを目撃していたにもかかわらず、多くが何もせずに傍観していましたね。傍観者は同罪的な話がありましたが、皆さんは同じ立場にあったら、いじめを止められますか？
microcosm,
この単語は、ある大きな社会現象を小規模に反映したもの、縮図という意味のフォーマルな語です。クラスやコミュニティが社会全体の縮図である、というような文脈でよく使われます。こちらがその英単語を使った例文です。
the school is a microcosm of the larger community.
その学校は地域社会の縮図だ。
The novel presents a microcosm of human behavior under pressure.
その小説は、プレッシャー下での人間の行動の縮図を書いている。学校内の生活は、人生の縮図であるという話がありましたね。そういえばちょっと前まで不登校をネタにしてた YouTuber の少年がいましたが、彼も結局は学校に行っていましたね。やっぱ学校行けるなら、行った方がいいのかも。
retaliation,
この単語は、攻撃や被害に対して仕返しをすることを意味する名詞です。個人間の争いから政治軍事まで幅広い文脈で使われます。こちらがその英単語を使った例文です。
he feared retaliation after reporting the bullying.
彼はいじめを報告した後、報復されることを恐れていた。
The country launched an attack in retaliation for the bombing.
その国は爆撃への報復として攻撃を開始した。石田はいじめの加害者だったクラスメートの名前を出したことで、その仕返しとしていじめられていましたね。なんか実際には、他の子たちは石田だけがいじめていて、自分はやってないと思っているらしいですね。
attentive,
この単語は、相手の話をよく聞く、よく気がつく、思いやりを持って対応するというポジティブな形容詞です。アテンティブと何々で、何々に注意を払うという意味になります。 こちらがその英単語を使った例文です。
The students were attentive during the lecture.
その講義の間、生徒たちは注意深く聞いていた。
He is very attentive to the needs of his friends.
彼は友人たちの必要にとてもよく気を配る。石田は周囲をよく見て、相手に気を配れるような一面があるというような話がありましたね。子供だから難しかったのでしょうが、大人になったらこういった性質がもっといい方向で発揮できる人なのでしょうね。
Clown.
この単語は本来ピエロですが、日常的にはふざける人、バカなことをする人という軽い批判ユーモアを含む意味でも使われます。SNS ではこいつマジでお調子者だなというニュアンスでも使われます。こちらがその英単語を使った例文です。
Stop acting like a clown and focus on your work.
ふざけてばかりいないで仕事に集中しなさい。
He pretended to be a clown to make the kids laugh.
彼は子供たちを笑わせるためにピエロの真似をした。石田はクラスのお調子者的な存在でしたが、その裏にはお調子者でいないと自分はうざがられてしまうという心理が働いているという話がありましたね。今振り返ってみると、小学校のクラスのお調子者もそういう人だったかも。